All right, we're back with another episode of Talking Preps, a little special episode tonight. We wanted to get some former high school kids that are going on to college and talk about their recruiting experience during the pandemic. But given everything we've seen with the protest, I wanted to ask some of our guests about the protest. First, let me introduce everybody. We got the guru, Rick Lewis. You guys are very familiar up top. Beside him, Shariah Gaddy, former South Mex star, now going to Limestone. Below me is Randall Clark, trainer extraordinaire. Next to Randall is Rinnah Green, who's going to UNC Wilmington. And then the coach, Cristie Mitchell, South Mex girls basketball coach. In the back, we've got Jamarius Burton, who's going to Texas Tech, former Independent star, was at for Greg Marshall, Wichita State. And then we have Trey Wertz, who's going to Notre Dame, that started out at Santa Clara. But we're going to start out with the young ladies. And Shariah, you told me you just came back from a protest. Tell me where it was and why you went to go and what made you go and how to go.
Well, we had organized a protest at Myers Park High School, and we marched from Myers Park High School to South Park, the South Park area near the mall. And I've been a lot more vocal, and I've been out there because it's something that is really important to me. And I feel like today is really hard for people to understand that there really shouldn't be two sides to this story. Racism is racism, and at the end of the day, there should be one side, and that should be equality. And so going out and seeing all those people, white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, it means a lot because at the end of the day, we can't do it on our own. We need our allies. We need our people with privilege to speak up and help us.
Okay. Rinnah, what's your kind of take on all the protests going on? Have you been involved at all? And, what's your general kind of takeaway from all of this? Oh, we can't hear Rinnah. Okay. Rinnah, we got to get your microphone's not on. We got to get your microphone on. I think we lost Rinnah, but but while Rinnah tries to get herself together, I'm gonna drop her off the feed, and Rinnah, go ahead and try to come back and come back out and come in. Shariah, let's go ahead and jump ahead to the recruiting thing. Coach Lewis has been really big about how recruiting is going to look in this environment. And what was it like for you to transfer schools? And I don't know if you're able to visit or not. What was that like, doing a transfer during this time?
Well, at first, when I realized that I was going to have to transfer, I was kind of nervous because I didn't know anything about the transfer portal, and I didn't expect as many coaches as I got that reached out to me. I didn't expect that to happen at all. But the transfer portal is a really good resource, and it definitely blessed because as soon as my name entered the portal, I was immediately getting emails and phone calls and former offers that I had. Coaches had reached out to me and said oh, I just seen your name in the portal. So it made it a lot easier. But the one thing that was difficult was that I wasn't allowed to go on visits because of the whole pandemic. But luckily, I have been on a visit to Limestone before I had committed to Presbyterian.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Okay. Coach Mitchell, what do you do when one of your players comes to you during this kind of time and says, I'm ready to change schools? I mean, it's a different process, I'd imagine.
Well, when Shariah texted me and said, "Coach, I'm leaving Presbyterian. I need your help," then I said, "Okay," and made some contacts with some college coaches because I've never had a player in my coaching experience go into the transfer portal. So it was kind of new to me as well. So I made some calls to some college coaches, and they said, "Oh, it's simple. Here's a website. Have her fill this out, send it to her dad, send it to her." And then I tweeted it out and said, "Look, Shariah Gaddy has entered the transfer portal," and it just took off from there.
Coach Lewis, what are you hearing about transferring from college coaches at this time? I mean, it just seems like we've had 700-800 kids literally on the men's side of the portal. What are you hearing about transferring and how it's different for coaches now versus other years?
Well, I think the transfer portal is now the new means of recruiting. College coaches are now spending more time on the transfer portal than they are basically recruiting high school students, because at a college level, they would rather go in and look at a player who's out there on the portal. And if they're on there, they can basically go back through highlights, whatever it may be, and look at the stats, look how the player played. And, for a lot of people at the collegiate level, they would say, okay, this player played at ABC University. He had a decent year. We know what to expect. If he comes in, he sits out a year, he's sort of a proven commodity. Whereas sometimes at the high school level, you don't know what you're actually getting, because that adjustment going from high school to college is always going to be very steep.
Randall, what are you hearing? Kind of same question from your sources about transferring and then the high school kid versus the college transfer in terms of a college coach, especially right now.
Exactly what Coach Rick just said. A lot more people spending a lot more time in the transfer portal so that they can actually see what they can get. I think it makes it a little bit harder, especially during this pandemic time. A lot of coaches kind of took their time when pulling the trigger on a lot of offers, just because it was so many kids in the transfer portal that it really hurt some guys that hadn't decided to commit as unsigned seniors. So that's really been their focus. And I think, if things go the way that they've been going, I think you'll see a lot more of that. And that number of players that go into the transfer portal every year will just continue to rise.
Guys, if you have any questions for the athletes or the panel, put your questions in YouTube. We'll flash them up on the screen and see if we can get an answer for you. Rinnah, are you back with us now? Rinnah, are you with us now? Say something to us.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Sorry, broke up.
Back to the original question I was asking Shariah about the protest. I mean, how have you kind of taken to the protest, and what's your experience been this past week or so since the George Floyd killing?
Yeah, I haven't been protesting. I was planning to go last night with my mother. However, she was concerned about the pandemic, so we decided not to go. It does feel good to know that we have other people standing up for us now. The privilege standing up for us, everybody coming together as one. It's been going on since I was able to understand racism and issues in our society, and so it just feels good to know that everybody is coming together as one.
Yeah, what made
making a movement, especially here in Charlotte?
Yeah, what made you decide to transfer?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, what was it that made you decide to transfer during the pandemic like this?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
You good?
Well, the situation in Charlotte, I love Charlotte. Y'all know this is home. I love the coaches there. I love my team. I love the situation. I love the environment. However, just for certain reasons, I discussed with my coach and my family, and I needed to get somewhere and get a slate. I learned a lot from Charlotte. I'm glad I went there. And I don't know where I would be as far as mentally if I didn't go to Charlotte for 2 years. But I just think it's time for me to move on, not only from the school, but from the city, and grow as a person. And I feel like me going to Wilmington would definitely help me grow as a person and as a player.
Okay. We've got a couple questions, and I'm having trouble getting them on the screen. But I wanted to. One of the questions was for the girls, and I'll start with Shariah. How do you select the college?
How do I select a college?
Yeah, if you're a high school kid or transfer, how do you pick the next school?
First, I would like to start by saying, do not get so caught up on what division you play. I know in high school, I felt like, I'd worked very hard and I deserved to play Division I basketball. That was my thought process. And even though I was told not to do that, it was still in the back of my head. And so I was a little bit caught up in going to a Division I college. I'll admit that. But what also is important to me is a family atmosphere. And you don't really understand how important that is until you get to college and you realize you're on your own. And it's important that you'll be able to have your teammates and your coaches there as family, because at the end of the day, those are the people who will have your back and who will always be there for you.
All right. Rick, what advice would you give to kids when they're trying to pick a college? I mean, you deal with recruiting as much as anybody in North Carolina. What advice would you give to parents and kids as they're trying to seek out the school? Because everybody wants to go to the biggest school possible, kind of what Shariah was alluding to. What's your advice there?
Well, she probably had what everybody else has, is the D1 buster mentality. But I think the number one thing is for everybody in the selection process is find the right fit. Go somewhere where you want it and need it. And, especially the relationships, the schools that have recruited you the longest have invested the most amount of time and money into you as a recruit. You're going to become more valuable to them. I think what I see a lot of times with a lot of prospects is you may be recruited at a mid-major level, and these people have developed relationships over 6 months to a year. And then also what happens is late in the recruiting process, you may get some interest from a high major school. And of course, everybody wants to go to the highest level, and they forget about the 6 months to a year relationships they've had built up with, say, some of the mid majors, but it's so attractive to go to the highest level. So my advice is pick a school that you'd want to go to if basketball was not involved. But most importantly, go to the right fit where you're wanted and where you're needed.
Rinnah, what made you initially decide to go to Charlotte? And then as you look for a second school, what was it about UNC-W that stuck
out? UNC Charlotte, it was easy to stay home. At first, everybody was saying, go, go, go. But once you realize that being at school in the same city that you're from is like you're at home away from home because you have your own place. And then, you're kind of that person who just knows everything about the city. So it was fun at first. And like I said, I don't regret anything. I still love Charlotte and I still love the school. But when I left, as far as choosing Wilmington, this time, I probably didn't consider, being close to home as far as family that much when I made this decision, or just being comfortable. I realized you grow in uncomfortable situations. So just moving out, and it's a really good school. They have my major, and it's just like at the redshirt year, I feel like that school is just going to be the school for me.
All right. Coach Mitchell, we're gonna let the young ladies go. I do want to ask you a question before you go, but Shariah and Rinnah, thanks for coming on. Good luck at your new schools. Let's all make all conference next year, academically and on the court. Can you do that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and I'm going to bring in, before I ask Coach Mitchell that question, I'm going to bring in Trey Wertz and Jamarius Burton. Jamarius is going to Texas Tech, former Independence. Trey Wertz is going to Notre Dame, former Providence Day. Coach Mitchell, when you're giving advice to your players, and they, everybody wants to play D1, as Coach Lewis said, what kind of advice do you give them when the player might not be that level? Do you don't want to spoil their dream, or what do you tell them?
I try to be as honest as possible with all of my kids, and let them know that if you want to play Division I basketball, this is where you need to be. This is what you need to be doing. And just like Shariah said, everyone's not a Division I player, or even if you do have Division I talent, it might not be the best fit for you. I played D2 ball 20-something years ago and had a great career and wouldn't change it for the world because I was able to play and get minutes. And when you go to the college level, it's like a full-time job. So if you're going to put in the work, and travel and the time commitment that you're putting in the college level, you want to make sure that you're getting rewarded, and that reward is playing time. So, don't just go Division I just because that's the highest you can go. I would much rather play, low Division I or even D2 ball and get minutes on the court and be able to be an immediate impact for my team than sitting on the end of the bench. Yeah. So, go where you fit. Go where you fit in. There's no shame. It's, whoever's going to give you money and going to pay for you to go to college and play basketball, that's where you need to go.
Absolutely. Randall, you coached these two young men we're about to talk to. Kind of tell the people about Jamarius and about Trey, who at one time played on the same AAU team.
Well, I mean, they're two of my favorite players to work with. I think Trey is special because his game is so smooth and he just makes it look so easy. I was talking to one of my other trainers the other day, and they were just talking about how effortless Trey shoots the basketball, and I think that's what makes him special. His ability to shoot the basketball. But one of the things that I always tried to get through to Trey was be able to score the ball from all three levels, and he's done a phenomenal job of doing that once he finally bought in to shooting the mid-range.
And
For
Jamarius?
Jamarius, it's been very fun to work with him because for Jamarius, it's been fun working with him just because he came to me last year with a specific goal of becoming a better shooter. So last summer, before he left to go back to Wichita, everything we worked on was just shooting. We changed a few things mechanically and just gave him some new things to work on while he was at school. And, when you look at his numbers, especially from three, from his first year to his second year, you can see the increase. And that's something that I really take pride in. And he was able to work at it once we put it in last summer and really excelled at it this season.
Jamarius, what was it like for you to leave Wichita? First of all, why did you leave Wichita State? Because a lot of people want to hear from you. I mean, you guys had a mass exodus there. Why did you leave Wichita State? And then once you did, you had like everybody and their grandmother offering you. So what was that like to be just bombarded and then not to be able to go to visit anybody? You were like doing Zoom.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why I left Wichita ultimately was it came down to the environment. I feel like that place, Wichita wasn't the place for me to continue to grow and develop as a player to the best of my ability. And obviously some of my teammates felt the same. But when it came to my relationship with my teammates, we all loved each other. So, I mean, it just wasn't the right fit anymore. But I didn't expect my offers and the interest level to be how it was. But I was grateful. And even though I couldn't visit those universities, me and my family did a great job, hopefully finding the best fit at Texas Tech.
What advice would you give a 9th, 10th grader, having been through everything you've been through with recruiting, about picking a school? Somebody who's a good player that's tracking to be a college basketball player. What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah. The first thing I would tell them to do is to create a list of things that they want at that university, whether that's the ability to play right away, living arrangements, the access to the gym, all the things that they feel like is important. And then I would tell them to see about the relationship with the coach, try to develop a relationship. And then for me, I started reaching out to the other players. So like I would tell them, like when you're on your recruiting visits or you're talking to some of the players, I would tell them to talk to the seniors because they got nothing to lose. They about to leave and they can give you the honest truth. So that's what I would tell them. Talk to the seniors.
All right. Trey, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. Trey, what mistakes did you make in your recruiting trail that gave the first time that gave you some insight the second time as you were going through it?
Mistakes, I don't know. Like I don't really say like I regret anything about the first time. I think we've talked about kind of being a little more active in talking to the coaches. I think some people think I probably blew them off early on in the recruiting stages just because kind of what you guys alluded to earlier, always wanting to play at that highest level. So I kind of, I guess, turned my head to some of the other schools. So I think just making sure you stay in contact with everybody, listen to everybody's pitch, and just take it all in so you can have every option available at the end of the road.
Coach Lewis, I know you had a hand in both of these young men both times. What did you see that they did correct, and what did you see that maybe you would have done a little bit differently with both of them?
As far as the second time around, I think they did the right thing as far as the way they played it out. I think they were very careful in their selection. I know with Trey, when he announced, I'm sure he had some anxiety, and you did too as a parent. I think I tried to reassure you he was going to be a hot commodity, which he was. But in Trey's situation, You know, a lot of people came after him and made him a high priority. So, you know, he had the likes of, you know, Ohio State, UNC, you know, Notre Dame, Butler, Arizona. So he had the pick of the litter. And it was just a matter of, again, what I said earlier and alluding to, you just have to find the right fit for you, both academically and athletically. As far as Jamarius, you know, again, you know, I understand the dynamics that was happening at Wichita State, and also the dynamics that a lot of people left. And he was in the same situation where when he put his name in the transfer portal, he had the pick of the litter of where he wanted to go to. And, you know, in his selection, he felt like he went to a place that he's going to basically enhance his basketball career for the next level.
Okay. Coach Mitchell, we got a couple questions I want everybody to ask. We'll start with you and ask the boys as well. Does the size of the school matter, Coach Mitchell? Does the size of the school matter?
That's tough. On the girls' side, when most girls aren't looking to go to the WNBA. So on the girls' side, that's not in the back of their mind. Where can I go to get to the next level? They're looking at where can I go to be the best college player I can be. So on the girls' side, I don't think the size of the school necessarily matters. On the boys' side, it's a little bit different because potential future pros right now. So, you know, you got to be able to be where you can excel and you can get the, you know, the best competition. You can be out there and play your best ball and be seen, have the exposure. So, you know, going to Winthrop versus going to Carolina, that's a big difference in Division I.
Sure. Well, Trey, that kind of applies to you because you went to a smaller school in Santa Clara. Now you're going to a much bigger school is Notre Dame. The size of school matter.
For me coming out, I told everybody it really did in my decision because I actually turned down some like ACCs and some Power Fives. But for me, it was just kind of finding the best fit. And I think, I mean, what she was kind of alluding to, trying to get to the NBA, it's been done at the mid-major level. So there was a path that I kind of saw a route to get there. And I felt at the time that I could do that at Santa Clara, and it just didn't end up working out how I thought it would.
Jamarius, same question. Size of school matter. I mean, you know, you're at a big school to start with, but does that matter, you think, when you're picking a school?
I mean, I feel like it differs for the person. For me, it didn't, but for some people, they want to enjoy their college days as well as play basketball. So I feel like if you're one of those people, then it definitely does matter because the more students there, the more possibility to meet new people and just a better chance of enjoying college.
Before I move on, Jamarius, I want to ask you about potentially being in the backcourt with Mac McClung. I mean, that's you know, two team loaded guys going together. I mean, that's a really exciting backcourt. Who's going to be the point guard and how you guys are going to coexist?
I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit taller than him, so whoever got the ball, you know, we could rock out. It doesn't matter to me.
Have you talked to him?
Not yet. I just congratulate them and thank them and welcome them to their family, but I haven't had a personal conversation with them yet.
Yeah, that's going to be one heck of a backcourt. Randall, who picks the school, the parent or the athlete? Randall can't hear me. Can you hear me, Randall? I think we lost Randall.
I'll buzz in on that
I can
one.
hear you.
Okay.
I could not hear you at first. I got you now.
All right. Who picks the school?
I got
Mom
you
and
now.
dad or the kid?
Yeah, my question is for Trey. Trey, you had a lot of schools. That's a great question for Trey to answer because I would love to hear what he has to say about this.
Okay. You about to give me
the kid, I think mom and dad have a lot of input in it, but I think at the end of the day, it's always the player's decision. But they obviously lean a lot on both their parents for advice.
All right, Trey, your mom's in the other room. What's the answer to that question?
I mean, end of the day, y'all left the decision up to me, but I mean, I came to you guys both for a lot of advice and input. And I mean, kind of throughout the process, you had your favorites every other day. It almost seemed like so. I just kind of had to kind of sit back, take it all in. And we sat down to all together and ultimately figure it out. But ultimately, it was my decision.
Yeah. Coach Lewis knows I was running around the house in a light blue shirt during the whole time you were getting recruited. It didn't quite work out.
You're crazy alone, so that is.
Do what?
You know, so I knew there would be some pressure from you to go there, but
Absolutely. Jamarius, mom and dad make the decision at your house, or did you make the decision? What? Tell the truth. What was it?
It came down to me. Now I'll be honest. At first, I wasn't on it. I wasn't Texas Tech. I was another school. Me and my mom was. But then again, I had talked to some players, and then my dad was Texas Tech the whole time. So then after I did some more research, talked to some more players, I made my decision to go with Texas Tech, and they stood by me.
How difficult was that?
It was very hard, especially because, I had multiple family members saying this school, or I live here at this school. So you come here, you always got somebody here. But ultimately it was a basketball decision.
I got you. Rick, you deal with tons of coaches, players, coaches, parents every year. What's your perspective on this question? I want to get Coach Mitchell's perspective as well. Who makes that decision ultimately? Is it mom and dad, or is it the kid?
It should be left on the player. Most definitely. I think parents can have a little bit of input, but I think it's a kid's decision. They're going to have to play there. They're going to have to live there. It should be basically 100% the player's decision. As a parent, we've had that situation occur with us with Tyler, but we can give them advice and give them guidance, but at the end of the day, it's their decision.
All right, and I think Randall has a question he wants to ask. Randall, go ahead.
Oh no, you basically hit my question right on the head, and you already answered. You already basically asked my question, and I got the response I needed from Trey, so I'm good.
Jamarius, what is it like when you grow up, playing all these guys in high school, and then everybody goes off to college, and you see so many guys you grew up with now playing big time basketball on television, and you're going to play against some of them. I mean, like I talked about Mac McClung, there's a guy that was in Team Loaded. You guys played with and against. Now you're playing with him. What's that like to see those guys and even to see the guys that are in front of you, and now you're playing against them on TV?
Yeah, it means a lot. Just being around other talented guys, seeing them grow up and evolve, it just motivates me to know that somebody out there is working just as hard, if not harder. So it just motivates me to stay in the gym, and I'm just glad to see those guys grow up and become pros, and hopefully everybody become pros.
Absolutely. Coach Mitchell, I forgot to get your answer on the parent question, because you're at that level where you're dealing with mom and dad. In your long history of coaching, kind of what do you see? Do you see parents really pushing kids to go one way and the kid really wants to go another way? I mean, what do you see?
No, not really. In most of my kids that have been recruited, the parent has just been the supporter, has given some advice, and maybe narrowed it down as far as region is concerned. I mean, might say, you don't want to go all the way to California to play because, you're that far from home. That would be my problem as a parent, is my child going that far away from home. Mm-hmm. But, if it's the right fit for the kid, then, the kid has to make that decision. I think parents are just there for the guidance. And, but just like Rick said, the kid's the one that's going to be there for 4 years and going to be spending time with people that, their brothers and sisters are going to be right there on the campus. It's not going to be blood family. It's going to be the school family. So, the kid really has to be the one to make the decision so they're happy.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned geography. I mean, Jamarius, you're going out to Texas. You're going to be a long way from home. Did geography matter to you at all when you were making this decision? Obviously it didn't, but I'll ask the question anyway.
Yeah. It didn't affect me because I've been in Wichita, and that was 17 hours away. So I felt comfortable going to Texas, just adding 3 more hours to the trip. But ultimately, when I first put my name in the portal, I did want to come closer to home. But it ultimately was a basketball decision. So I have to just accept that I'm going to be even further away from my family.
Yeah. And Trey, initially, you decided to go to California for college. I mean, what led to that decision to go so far away from home? And then you had a chance to go to Virginia, Carolina, a lot of schools that were back close to home, yet you decided to go, much to my chagrin, originally to Indiana. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, going out to Cali was never like a big thing for me. With mom being from out that way, I knew I would have people if I needed to that I could get to at any time. And I was always kid growing up, I always kind of wanted to live out there for whatever reason. So just kind of getting to go out there for a couple of years, that was really fun. And then when I made my decision the second time, again, geography really didn't matter to me. I mean, I was considering Arizona to the last second. But I was just ultimately looking to find the best basketball. That's what Notre Dame is.
All right. Well, guys, I appreciate you guys coming on with us. Before I let you go, but we're going to talk to the panel just a little bit. What single piece of advice, and we'll start with Trey, would you guys, and I asked Jamarius this earlier, but what single piece of advice would you give to people that are watching, parents and kids, to kind of take them as they move through the process? What single piece of advice, Trey? One thing you tell them.
Just take your time. I mean, kind of just take your time. Don't be in a rush. Kind of build those relationships. Try to continue to build on them. And then ultimately, I think you'll realize at a certain point in the process what's right for you. And at that point, you should just try not to overthink it. Just kind of go with your gut. And that's ultimately probably the right decision for you.
Okay. Same question, Jamarius.
I mean, Trey kind of said it all, but I would go with my gut and try to see if the coaches, whoever's talking to you from that university, if you get a feel that they're genuine, and if you get that feel, then it's probably the best place for you.
All right, cool. Well, guys, look, thanks for jumping on with us. I know you're coming right from a workout with somebody on the bottom of our screen that shall remain nameless, but I appreciate that. And if the panel can hold on, we're going to let the kids go and wrap up real quick. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's Trey Wertz and Jamarius Burton. Really appreciate the kids coming on. Let me get Jamarius off the screen here. Get Randall back. So I'm still. Any reaction to what you guys heard from the kids? Is that the proper advice that we need to be passing on to the kids? Is that what they need to hear? Coach Mitchell, you can start.
I think so. I think
I agree with it.
Go ahead, Coach.
I definitely do. I agree with all the kids. I think they made some valid points, and they're not kids anymore; they're adults now. But I think that the high school kids right now can definitely take that advice.
Yeah, Randall.
I agree with them. One of the big things that I always tell a lot of my players is pick a school, because obviously your education is what matters the most. But also, when you pick a school, you have to go somewhere where you trust that coach is going to do right by you. You're hearing a lot of different things, and people are telling you how great you are. And while that might be true, the recruiting process is totally different when you sign your name on that dotted line. So, going somewhere where you trust the coach, and once you sign, that that he's going to be there and have your best interest at heart, even if he has to tear you down to build you back up. If that trust is there, I think it makes it a little bit easier experience.
Yeah. Coach Lewis, I'm going to give you the final word. Give us a peek into the Rick Lewis crystal ball about secrets to recruiting and things that kids and parents can do to kind of make the recruiting experience a little better. You're on mute, Coach. You got to turn mute off. He turned the picture off. It's live TV, guys. It's live TV.
Gotta love it.
Gotta love it. Absolutely. We're gonna get the guru in a second. He's trying to find the button. I think he's trying to find the button. So I'm trying to be smooth and let him wrap up, and then everybody go home. It's not working. Coach Mitchell, we're gonna have high school basketball this year?
I hope so. I really, really hope so. I hope this thing goes away quickly. We're hoping that June 15th, the state allows us to get back and start doing something. But, there's 3 different phases to that. You have the state, the governor says the first thing, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association says their recommendations, and then CMS comes on top of that and says, this is what we have to do. So right now we're hearing that June 15th, non-contact sports are going to be able to do something outside, but we don't really know what yet. And for the contact sports, we really don't know what that looks like either. And it could possibly just mean that you can be outside with the kids, no basketballs, no equipment, but you can do conditioning type things. And, even if it's just starts at that, I just want to see my girls. I want to bring them back in, we can go run a couple laps and then sit 6 feet apart and just talk. I just want the team camaraderie back out there. And I think the girls are, and the guys are looking for that. They just need to get back together and, just feel a sense of normalcy again.
How devastating would it be not to have a season?
Oh gosh, it was tough to cancel spring sports. At least they got, 2 weeks in or whatever it was. And, that was bad enough. But, if you're talking about canceling basketball, that means you're canceling football and fall sports first. So soccer, football, that's not going to be played if that's the case. And, I think it's going to be devastating for the revenue end for public schools is, if we don't have a football season and we don't have gate ticket sales, then how are we going to fund the rest of the sports and everything else that you have? So I think it can be devastating on several levels, not just on, just for the athlete and the recruitment process and, not having sports in school. I think it'll be tough. It'll be horrible. I hope that we don't come to that.
Yeah. Randall, when among all the people you train, are you noticing any kids that are kind of down mentally from being cooped up in the house? Do we have any mental health concerns that we need to really be paying attention to?
No, and that's a good question. It's actually something that I've talked about with almost all our players, just how they're doing with everything. They kind of just look at getting in the gym as kind of an escape from everything, which is great because that's what you want basketball to be. You want it to be an escape where you can just get away from whatever you have going on in life for, an hour or two. So I think for some of the guys it's been extremely beneficial because fans and their buddies who they didn't get to finish the school year seeing. And so I think that's been fun for them to get to catch up and see them and, kind of get away from everything we have going on in the world right now for an hour or two.
Yeah. Coach Lewis, you back with us now?
I am. Sorry about that.
All right. That's okay. AAU, are we going to have any summer basketball this summer?
The answer is yes. We're planning on, as a target date, the weekend of July 24th, 25th, 26th at the Rock Hill Sports Event Center down in Rock Hill, South Carolina. We will probably do an event the last 2 weekends of July and probably the first 3 weekends of August. And there's some scuttlebutt that's being circulated around that the NCAA may have a live period August the 6th through the 9th. So I am getting a lot of phone calls. People are geared up. People want to get back on the basketball court. That being said, we will take all the health and safety protocols that need to be done, such as having hand sanitizer, taking the temperature of the players, and everybody that comes into the facility will have to wear masks. There's going to be some very strict health protocols and guidelines that we'll have to adhere to, but I'm going to say the answer to that's going to be yes.
Okay. Well, this show was all about recruiting, and this is your area of expertise. I was going to let you wrap up when you had some audio trouble before. What pieces of advice would you give to parents and kids looking at this show right now as they're trying to navigate this recruiting thing? And recruiting is all of a sudden changed a whole lot with all the new rules we're going to be dealing with. What kind of advice would you give them, Rick, as they move forward?
Well, especially for the rising seniors, my advice to them is pay attention to the schools who are showing you interest, that they want you and they need you as a prospect, as a student athlete. Don't wait until the very last minute to make your decision. Spend your time doing the research on the particular schools that are recruiting you. Don't always go to the highest level. Go where the people who want you and need you. And that's the most important message, because what I see time and time again is a lot of players that are being recruited and have some really good offers. And after 6 months of being recruited, those schools feel like, hey, that recruit or that prospect wants to go to the next level. They want to go to a higher level. So they stop recruiting and they go to the next player. So the player who's waited until the spring of their senior year, a lot of those kids are going to be left out. So my advice is, going into your senior season, really go ahead and target the schools you want to go to. If there are 10 schools that's showing you interest, reciprocate and show that interest back to them and let them know that you really want to be recruited. And yes, you want to be a player at that particular school, because the one thing I speak to a lot of coaches when they have these conversations with a lot of the young players, they don't always feel like they're being well received, because a lot of the players want to go to the highest level.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I appreciate you jumping on tonight. We had a request to do this show, so everybody's going to get something out of it. We're going to get you guys back on our regular shows. Hopefully we'll be talking about some games, Coach Mitchell. You guys are going to be playing. We need sports to come back. So thanks a lot, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one.